You guys are good, I wouldn't you? Same thing applies to a drive, and I like to show you this because, you know, like I said, no matter which way you throw or how you throw, this applies to a backhand and a sidearm also. So, you know, I'm going to talk about this, then I'll go into more of a, you know, technique type stuff, but I'm going to start off just with this. Same thing like I just did up there where I had my disc. I'm pretending this is a tee pad. The same thing goes for that, except the line of play is where you're running on instead of just where you're standing. So like when I took the upshot, my disc was just right here, so I just stood right where the line of play was. And now, since I'm on the tee pad and say this is a hole right here, if I want to throw straight at the hole, I'm just gonna go walk straight and throw straight. So that way you know exactly where your disc is gonna go. It's gonna go straight at the target, you know. And the same goes for this way. Hyzer. And this is gonna come back, and it's gonna come back towards the basket. In the basket. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Preferably, yeah. But so yeah, that's that. And like I said, this applies not just to short shots, but more importantly to longer shots. Like I said earlier, but so that way you're not running up this way to try and throw across your body out this way. Same goes for the hyzer. If you're running up this way to try and throw an anhyzer, you're not gonna try and throw all the way across your body. See what I'm saying? If you're running up to this corner of the tee pad, trying to throw this way, and you're throwing across your body, you're not gonna get as much power or the result you're looking for. So there's a lot of benefits from just throwing everything in the same direction of where you want to throw. Because you see a lot of people that, especially on the tee pad, they want to throw a real long drive, so they don't really think about where they're running up. They just think they want to run up real fast and just kind of throw, you know. And sometimes, you know, that's why some people are inconsistent. You know, obviously, there's a lot of reasons why, but that's one of them. And this is the best way to just simplify your run up and your routine to the point where you're not throwing against your body, and it just eliminates a variable that shouldn't even really be in play. But a lot of people just don't think about it. It's something that's why I'm sharing it with you guys, so that way you can start doing it, and you can. I guarantee you'll see results just from your consistency of where your discs are landing. Like you saw my discs, they all landed within a, you know, pretty good, you know, short circle from here, just with the upshots, and that's just because I'm positioning my body and know how to position my body for a certain shot. And that's the biggest thing, is just the small stuff like that all adds up. So that's why I'm sharing that with you. So I feel like, you know, I kind of explained this to you guys. If you guys have any questions about this run up and lining yourself up properly, because that's just, I like to start it off like that, so that way you can really see what's going on. Is there any questions on there?
No, they said this is the best and way to go, champ.
Okay, cool. All right. Any questions?
Do you have any suggestions for when you find a tee pad that's just fucked up, small, wrong size? So I'm trying to follow those lines, and it's like sometimes you get this tee pad they made. It's like 3 foot wide,
and it's
5
easy
foot long.
Yeah, it's easy to psych yourself out about a tee pad, but you know, a lot of times you know where you're gonna land. And for me, I like to not really. A lot of people plan to land like right next to the tee pad edge, but if you're really worried about the tee pad, just plan on giving yourself a run up behind if it's flat. To really just throw in the middle of the tee pad, so that way you're not worried about falling off or something slipping. You know, so if it's a small tee pad, and not all the times you have the option to, you know, sometimes it's lumpy or whatever, but for me, if there's an option, I just try and throw from the middle of the tee pad, so that way you're not worried about falling off the side or tripping or something, and that way you're able to just not take, you know, the fact that, oh, I'm worried about slipping out of your head, you know. So, any other questions about this? And I'll move on to the next part of the driving station. No? All right. So, I'll kind of get this out of the way. And actually, you know what, I'm going to go over one more thing. I'll just go over the sidearm part. And the sidearm part is basically the same thing as the back end, like I showed you. There's a few different things. I'm going to go ahead and just show you with the one disc. So that way it makes, like I said, I showed you with the back end. Everything pretty much is the same. You know, if a straight shot with a sidearm is standing with its target, obviously you're flipped around, obviously. And, you know, for a hyzer, it'd be this way. And for me, also, for sidearm, when I'm throwing up shots like I would from here, you know, never mind. I'm gonna skip this part and kind of go back to the driving, and I'll come back to this after when I come back to the upshot station. So, anyways, sorry about that. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a little bit more into mechanics now that I showed you guys about how to, you know, line yourself up properly and that sort of thing. So, for drives, and a lot of players, the question is gaining distance and gaining accuracy. The first part I told you was something that it will definitely help your accuracy, and like I said, that's the first part of driving is accuracy. Everyone wants to throw accurate, and everyone wants to throw long. So I'm gonna show you exactly how to achieve the long part, the distance, which is what everyone wants to know. So it's a combination of a few different things. It's a combination of timing, reach back, and everything's flowing together all in one direction. So I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about by that. Is when you're driving, a lot of people, what you see is they reach back, but they don't reach straight back, and that's going to cause you to throw in a direction where you don't really know where it's going to go. If you're reaching back here and you're coming back forward, it's going to be inconsistent. As if you reach straight back like this, you're going to go straight forward, your disc is only going to be able to go in that direction. And if you can master the straight shot, that's why when you first start, everyone's like, yeah, just throw straight. Because if you can throw straight, it's all you're basically throwing straight on every shot. If you think about it, I'm throwing straight here. So I ran up straight and just threw straight. But if I throw like a hyzer, like I was showing you guys, I'm throwing straight. Throwing straight, my disc is going to hyzer back to the line of play. So the same goes for an anhyzer. So if you can get this straight reach back, that's basically all you need to know. Because then you can master all the different shots. Because all the different shots, you're reaching back straight pretty much, and just throwing on the same angle. Your wrist control is different. Basically, if you want to throw an anhyzer, you hold your disc, bring your disc on that plane straight, but it's all the same. Your arm is going in the same direction. Your wrist may move a little bit, but you're basically throwing straight, just lining your body and your wrist up a little different. And so that's the biggest thing, is really getting the straight reach back. And the best way to really start off by doing that, if you form bad habits early, is just literally standing here and is working on getting that straight reach back, and just throwing straight. And then working on your slow run up to slowly build up to be able to drive and do this reach back and pull through and get all the timing right. That's the hardest part, is combining the straight reach back with the run up and your lower body included. Because if you're standing here, it's mostly just your upper body. Obviously you're loading your weight a little bit, but you're not getting the momentum of a run up into it. And so that's where people kind of get mixed up. Their timing gets off. They throw it high, low, And so that's really where field work comes in. You really got to figure out your timing and how it feels to throw it with a different timing than you're probably used to. If you're used to reaching your arm back to maybe this far, which you're not going to gain as much distance as opposed to this, your time is going to be off when you're first trying it. So the best way to practice it, master it, is just practice it, because your time is going to be different, and at first you're not going to be good at it. But most of the time when you're practicing something new, you're going to have to get worse before you get better, is what they say. And that's basically because you're just trying something new, and it's basically like you start from square one. You've never done that before. So it feels so foreign that you're like, your body's like, this is weird. So you really have to practice even more to really make it start feeling normal again. So even when I still critique my game and switch my swing up a little bit here and there, and I'll notice it myself where you switch something with your arm angle or your run up or something like that, and it just feels so foreign. You're like, oh wow, this is weird. But the more you practice it, in the long run, it's going to be better. And that's what you got to realize. And so, yeah. Anyone have any questions about that? I'm going to talk more, but
How do you get more sidearm distance?
yeah, I'll go into that in a second. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. You're reaching straight back, and that's the cool thing about a sidearm is it's basically the similar motion. You're just flipped around. And obviously for a sidearm, it's a lot about the wrist as well. Same with the backhand though. You're controlling different angles with your wrist, but it's basically the same thing. I'll go into it a little more in a second. But good question. Anyone else? No. All right. So now that I talked about the arm and the reach back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the run up in the lower body, which is something else you keep in mind when you're trying to get distance, because not all your power is supplied by your upper body or your arm. A lot of your power is supplied by your lower legs and your timing of the run up that you're going through to get to the hit, which is the throw. So if I'm throwing a drive, you really want to. What I like to do is I like to point my 2 feet where I'm throwing. So if I'm throwing a hyzer on this shot, say, I'm going to line my body up so that way I'm turning and automatically turning my shoulders to be on the line of where I'm throwing. So if I'm throwing an anhyzer, I'm going to want to throw this way and run up this way. And kind of that way my shoulders, as soon as I get ready to turn my shoulders and target, it's on the line of where I want to throw it. So yeah, I'm starting like this, but as soon as I take my first step, I'm in the same line. So this is how I'm starting, and this is how I'm ending. I start like this, and by the time I get to my end destination, where I want to throw, I'm like the same thing, but obviously my arms reach back. But I start on the angle I want, and end on the same angle I want, and that way everything is going in that same direction. I'm never going to reach my disc like this and do all this funny stuff. That's just, it's unneeded movement, and that's what you want to minimize to have consistent, especially when you're driving. Consistent, controlled distance drive. So that being said, when you're a lot of people, you'll see, like I said, if they'll do all this funny stuff to try and compensate for the distance or something. But the best way to do it is really controlling the speed and timing of your run up and lining that up with your body and your arm. So I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And in a disc golf swing, like I said, not just driving, not just anything. All the different throws and putts in disc golf is all about timing. And for me, I like to, I've figured it out through the years, just kind of with experience and learning through different people. It applies to, like I said, driving, upshots, and putting. And I'll show you with each topic how it applies. But for driving, it's all about just getting the slow to fast run up timed correctly with your arm. And what I mean by that is starting off your run up slow. So say that's the front of the tee pad or my destination. I want to slow my run up before I get there, so that way I can go slow, and by the time I get to where I want to take my last step, it's going fast. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about by that. I'm not going to throw because I don't really have enough room, but I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go slow, and working with fast at the end. There's no point to get fast at the end or fast at the beginning like this, and then get slow at the end. You see a lot of people do that. They get all excited. They want to throw like a 450-foot drive or 400-foot drive or whatever, and they want to super run up fast at the beginning. But if you run up fast at the beginning, you can't keep that speed through the run up. You want to start off slow to build it up to fast with everything you do. Your lower body, your arm, everything. You're not going to reach your arm back real fast, because then by the time you go forward, it's going to go slow. You're not going to get as much power as you'd like. So timing the run up with your arm is going to probably feel foreign for some people that aren't used to reaching their arm all the way back and taking that slow run up to building it up to fast at the end. And so those two concepts are something that will apply to literally all you guys. And some of you may do it already, some of you may not, but those things are just so important for driving. Like I said, consistency between what I showed you, the timing with the run up, your lower body, the reach back, all that stuff together will make you more consistent and have you more distance off the tee. I guarantee it. Like I said though, sometimes you have to get worse before you get better when it comes to certain things like this. So, any questions, or otherwise I'm going to move on to the upshots and sidearm and then putting. Any questions as far as that goes? No?
When you're driving, you talk about the wrist angle. How important is the arm angle? Like, if you want to throw a Anheuser, you throw it like that. Anheuser like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so basically, that's a great question. It just depends on how severe of the angle you want to release on. Obviously, you're going to have to move your arm down if you want to throw a super spike hyzer. But if you're just throwing like a gentle hyzer, you can really just kind of twist your wrist a little bit, or an Anheuser, and that's what I meant by that. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that, but basically what I meant by moving your wrist a little bit is just if you're throwing an upshot, I guess is what I was talking about. If you want to throw an upshot and you can basically get three different angles: flat, hyzer, and Anheuser. So that's all you do. But obviously, if you're throwing like a super long hyzer, your arm has to move as well as your wrist. So that way, if you're just doing, like I said, gentle turns with your wrist, it's fine. But if you're doing severe, you're going to have to move your wrist and your arm down. So that way you're going straight back. But whatever you do, you got to lock your wrist in place. You never want to have your wrist moving in the middle of the throw. So if you say, all right, I want to have this much angle on my disc, and that way you just lock your wrist in. You don't move it. And then you might have to move if you want to accomplish a little more angle, you have to move your wrist down like this. So that way you can get that much more angle on it. And that way you're snapping your wrist at the end with this angle on it. And for a hyzer, that would be obviously same goes for an Anheuser. So if you're just doing a touch of turn or whatever you're doing with the angle of your disc, you might be able to just use it with your wrist. But if you're doing a whole bunch, that's when like a roller. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do a roller with my wrist. It's impossible. I have to move my arm too. Can't just turn my whole wrist inside out basically to throw a roller. So it just depends on the severity of the angle, I guess, is what it comes down to.
After every drive, should you have a snap on your wrist?
Yeah. I mean, I think
like
yeah.
a pop?
Yeah, exactly. I think you should. I think you should snap your wrist at whatever angle you're throwing on. If you're throwing on an Anheuser angle, you should probably, your wrist should be followed through like this. If it's flat, you should follow through like this.
Right.
Same goes for a hyzer. Like I said, you hold it in, and you should follow through on the same angle you held your disc on before you threw. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Okay, good question. Sorry, I didn't go into it, but if you have any other questions about that, I use 2 grips, and most of the time I'm weird. I use fan grip mostly for all my shots. I just basically hold almost all my discs like this. I put my pinky against the rim like this, and I kind of put my other 2 fingers, the middle finger and my ring finger, I guess, right like this, on the middle of the disc like that, and then my pointer finger is kind of just sitting on the rim. And I throw my drivers and putters all like that. I'm weird. Like I said, most people like to throw the power grip for drivers and fan grip for putters, but I like to throw all my discs like that. Just I feel like I have the most control, and I feel like I could get more distance with the power grip, but I'm just so used to throwing like this, and that's the way I feel most comfortable right now. And obviously I might change it, but for now that's the way I feel most comfortable, and so that's what I do. And for sidearms, if you're worrying about the sidearm grip, I use the 2-finger stack grip basically. It's the middle finger like this, and the pointer finger on top, and that basically just makes sure it's so firm in there. The pointer finger is pushing down on the middle finger, creating the pressure. So those are my two grips I use. I just really only use 2. One sidearm grip, one backhand grip, same grip for. And sometimes I'll throw, I guess, a putter, the fan grip sidearm, which is basically just a spread out finger, and then the thumb pushes between the 2. And that's just, I use that for putters, real soft touch shots sometimes. And that way, I just feel like I have the most control on the disc. If you have, the wider your fingers are, the more control on the disc you have. The way I feel. Any questions about grip?
Do you change how firm you're gripping between like a upshot and a distance shot, or are you always holding it just as?
Yeah, I think I hold it just about the same. Okay. If you want to hold real controlled shot, you want to, I don't think it should be much different than if you're ripping a long drive. For me, at least, just because I want to really feel the disc in my hand and really feel like I have a lot of control over it. So for me, I don't feel like I switch at all as far as the pressure on the disc between my fingers. How much I push my thumb down. It's all pretty much the same for me. Any other questions about the driving? Working my way to sidearms and putting. That's a question.
How you achieve more snap?
More snap?
More snap.
Okay, so like I was telling you guys with reaching straight back, that's how you get the snap. And that the more snap people get, some people reach all the way back, some people just reach, but you just want to maximize your snap and your power is where that's where you reach straight back and snapping the wrist. That's where the people, and the fingers also. That's where people hear the snap of the fingers, and sometimes it depends. There's different reasons people snap, but sometimes it's the way it releases off their hand. It could be their grip, could be the way that so it just depends. I'm not exactly 100% sure on the reason it snaps, but I do know that the more snap people get, the straighter they reach back, and it's basically the disc releasing out of their hand, and it's basically that's what it is. The disc releasing off their hand and creating that snap. Any other questions as far as driving?
What causes the disc to flip up whenever you throw it out of your hand?
Yeah.
Because when I first learned, I threw a high-speed driver and I was throwing it right and it landed left.
I gotcha.
And then I started throwing on an Anheuser just to achieve the S pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when I go to look back, I'm taking my eyes off my
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's a serious issue.
Yeah, so basically what's creating the hyzer flip is just the power in your throw. That's basically what it is. When you're first throwing, you're just kind of not really sure about where your disc is going to go, so you're just kind of like just throwing it out there and just playing the curve. But once you get a little more advanced, you start feeling like you can throw a little harder, and that's when you really throw that same disc. You might have hyzered for you a month or 2 months ago, but now that you play and you got that muscle memory down, you can really feel like your timing is right, and that's when you get the more rotation on the disc. And what's happening is the disc is thrown out with hyzer, and the more rotations you have, it turns it over. So if you just have like a few rotations, it's going to go like this, or whichever direction it is. More rotations will pull it to the right. But if you're just having a little rotation, it's going to go like this and kind of just die. But if you're throwing with hyzer and it's got a lot of rotation, it's going to go out, stay straight for longer, and fly longer on that angle, and then come back. So basically, to get the S curve, you don't have to throw the height. You can probably, I don't know about right now, but eventually you'll probably be able to work your way up to where you can. It's just a power thing and timing, because you're not used to. If you're a newer player, that's what's happening. You're not getting the full rotation on the disc as you can possibly get. And so basically, how to fix that is just working in a field, like I said, getting that straight reach back, and just working on getting that wrist snap and timing all together. And that's the biggest thing about driving is timing. People think it's all the power, the run up, and this, but it's like just like golf. You just take a smooth swing and hit it. That's probably the bet. You're probably gonna hit it farther than if you try and whack this crap out of the ball. Same thing applies to disc golf. If everything's right and your timing's right, that just means all your body movements and body parts move and working together. Sometimes if you're trying to reach back real fast, this part of your body's going back, this part of your body's going forward. You're not going to get the timing right. And so, to answer your question as short as possible, like I said, just getting the timing right, getting all the muscles and movements all going in the same direction. My arm's going back, my weight's going back, my arm's going forward, my weight's pushing forward. As opposed to some people, they might look like they have a great throw, but then, the arm could be going back and this is going forward, and then by the time the arm's coming through, their weight's already pushed and you have no power. You see a lot of people, I'll just demonstrate it. So that everything looks good here, and they push through, and they're still holding their disc in their throw. You saw my power was all pushed forward, my arm was lagging behind it. And so that means all your weight is spent. You just wasted all that momentum you built up before you even threw. So what should happen is you're pushing off, your back foot's pushing off as your arm's coming through. And so if there's a lag, that's when you get not as much rotation on the disc and allows it just to hydro off. Sorry to get crazy. Any other questions as far as driving? Otherwise, like I said, we're going to move into the upshots and kind of show you about some sidearm stuff as well.
Are you actively pushing off that back foot?
Yeah. Yeah. When you see a lot of the top pros, finishing, they're finished like this. Either left foot if you're right-handed. Obviously, it's the opposite if you're left-handed, but if you're pushing off, your left foot's probably in front of your right foot. That just means you're pushing your weight forward. You're just kind of like this, and you see it, and it's aggressive too. You're not just going to be all lazy and just be like, back foot. Your weight's back. If your weight's all the way back, you have to push off to get your weight to go forward. But if your weight's just kind of like in this foot a little bit, you don't really have to push off to get your leg forward. But if your weight's all the way back, you have to really push to get that weight going forward again. But if you're just sitting there and just kind of your arm just move your leg barely. See the difference between that? And that just means you're just being a little bit lazy with your lower body. Good question, though.
Do you spin on your heel or your toe when you throw?
For me, it's mostly, I would say 75% toes, maybe 25% heel. My weight, at least. I'm not necessarily like all on my toes or all on my heels. I'd say a little bit more leaning towards toes, just because I feel like I have more touch and more, just lighter on my feet that way. If you're on your heels, I feel like, I just don't have as much control.
But your actual pivot's on your heel.
Yeah, by the time exactly. My run up, and then, by the time I get here and I'm turning, it's on the heel mostly, or like the beginning of the run up. I'm like soft on my feet and really just getting the slow to fast run up, like I said. But then towards the end, you're right, it's kind of more in the middle to back of the foot towards the heel. Any other questions?
When you push off your back foot, is it parallel with your plant foot or is it slightly behind it?
So when I push off?
Yeah, when you push off, is it behind it and then you're looking in front or is it parallel?
Oh, I gotta kind of. I guess it depends on which way you're throwing. I mean, if you're throwing straight, it's just gonna be straight like this. See, it's pretty much straight. And obviously, it's gonna be different if you're throwing a hyzer. So it just depends on the shot for me. And like I said, like I was showing you earlier, and so that answers your question. If it's a hyzer, it's probably gonna be a little off. See how it's a little bit more in my middle of my foot, and then same is gonna go for the anhyzer. If I'm running up this way, my foot's gonna be like this. It's probably gonna only, it's not gonna quite be in the middle. So that's why. So it's basically just depends on which shot or angle I'm throwing on. Same for an upshot, just standing there. Upshot's all the same. This is the final motion, but like you just saw, if I'm running up this way, it's gonna be like this by the time I get here. So it's the same exact thing. You're just including the run up to get to that angle. That's why I like to show you guys at the beginning, just to get the angles right. See what I'm saying? Anyone else? Questions? No? Okay. All right. So now I talked a little bit about the backhand, upshot, just so I could kind of warm you guys up, but I'm going to show you guys also the sidearm up shots as well. And like I said, a lot of this stuff applies, and I'm going to